So just to link back to the previous slide, here's a list of the most popular questions that are likely to come up in your next interview, and you should definitely spend some time preparing. My advice is, go through each of these questions at least 10 times. It's not bad to be over prepared. Practice them with your friend or a family member, and also ask them for some honest feedback about whether you are saying the right thing, and how you're delivering the message as well, which is equally important. So this slide will help you control your interview nerves. Now, interviews can be a little bit daunting. It can cause you to feel a little bit anxious, which is normal, especially for people a little bit more introverted, and might find it difficult to sell themselves. So here's some of my top tips on how to manage your interview nerves and anxiety. First of all, tell yourself it's okay not to get the job. Right? Now, that might feel a little bit weird, especially if you're interviewing for a job that you really want. But the reason that you're feeling anxious is probably because you've got a fear of failure. Um, so it's okay not to get the job. Tell yourself that you will do, you will try your very best to prepare for the interview, and you'll try your very best to perform during the interview. But it is outside of your control whether you are offered that job or not. So control what you can and don't worry about what you can't control. Next, stop thinking about all of the things that could go wrong. So again, when you feel nervous or you feel anxious, you start making scenarios in your head where you fear the absolute worst. So you think you're going to go into the interview and you're going to be grilled and you're not going to be able to answer any of the questions. You're thinking that you're not going to get the job. You might start feeling a little bit worthless. Stop that. Start thinking positively. Tell yourself that you have the skills, you have the experience for this role, and that's why you're being called for an interview. And if you don't get it, then it's okay. It just means that something bigger and better is available for you out there. So stop the negative thinking, start thinking positively, and tell yourself that you will put your best foot forward. A good tactic to try and calm your nerves early in the interview is break the ice. So engage in a bit of small talk with someone at reception if it's an in-person interview, or if it's an online interview, then just have a little bit of casual talk at the start. Ask them, how's your day? I always revert to the weather. Being in London as well, it's always something funny to talk about. So just talk about something which is not related to the company or the job role, just to calm yourself down and get your nerves together. Point number 4, power through and breathe. So at the height of anxiety, you're going to feel your heart beating very fast. Your hands might feel a bit sweaty, uh, and you might be losing your breath. And the most important thing to do at that point is just breathe. That will have a physiological effect and calm your nervous system down. So just taking deep breaths, slowing your speech, getting things back together so that you're nice and calm. I just practice that myself and I can feel the changes in me already. So if it works for me, I'm sure it will work for you. And finally, practice, practice, practice. So I think I said before, you should practice each question 10 times. Now, of course, you don't want to be overly rehearsed and scripted because it will come across as quite obvious and you don't want to sound too robotic. You want it to sound natural. But the more you practice, the more your confidence will grow. And practice different types of interview questions as well. Ask your friends and family to throw questions at you and see how you deal with answering them. Again, this will help your confidence, and this will make you prepared to answer any interview question which is thrown your way. So some final advice to help you stand out in your interview. So again, I've sat through thousands of interviews. with candidates. And these are probably the top 10 common mistakes that people tend to make and the things that you should avoid doing. Number one, arriving late for an interview is a no-no. And look, it does happen. It's okay. We're humans. We can make mistakes. So either send an email or call the company ahead of time that you're going to be a few minutes late. And when you arrive, make sure that you apologize. Number two, check that your technology is working if you're invited to an online interview. Because the worst thing is when you have somebody arrive 5, 10 minutes late and they tell you that they had technology issues, the interviewer immediately starts out thinking, you know, did the person not, weren't they a bit more proactive? And weren't they a little bit better organized by checking their technology perhaps the day before or when the interview invite went out? So make sure, at least 24 hours before that your microphone and camera are working. The third mistake to avoid is making no attempt to build a rapport, right? Or building, I guess, a casual relationship with the interviewer. So again, this is a good tactic to try and calm your interview nerves down. Try and get to know the interview panel, ask them about their day, joke about the weather, but just get to know them a little bit more outside of the standard interview format. So number four, I think this is a pet peeve of mine, but it's when having a candidate turn up for an interview and they've done no research on your company or on the job role. So use my advice of checking the company's profile out on LinkedIn, having a look on other social media pages, of course, having a look on YouTube, researching about the company and the news. Really find out about the company and also the people that you're interviewing for. So maybe read about the interviewers on their LinkedIn page, and then mention that to the interviewers during the interview process. They'll be really impressed that you've taken the time out to get to know them. Number five is another pet peeve, so stop mispronouncing company and interviewer names. And again, we're human, once is okay. But if it is a difficult name, then just ask, the interviewer, am I pronouncing your name correctly? And, is this how you pronounce a company name? Ideally, you would like to find out before the interview, but if that's not possible, then yeah, it's fine to ask during the interview itself. So the sixth point to avoid is coming across as being overconfident. So sometimes you might start answering questions that you don't really know. You might come across as this person knows everything. It's okay to say, hey, sorry, do you mind rephrasing that question? Or you might want to pause for a few seconds and think about the answer. You might want to be honest and say, look, actually, I don't know the answer to that question. You can still attempt to answer it. So it could be, I don't know the answer to this question, but this is how I'm thinking, or this is how to approach it. Is that what you're looking for? I think that's really important. So some people have, yeah, conflicting views on this. So whether you should bring your CV or a notepad to interviews. So the most important thing is not to be reading from your CV or from the notepad. So if you've just got your head down like this and they're asking you a question, you're saying, yep, this is who I am and this is what I do and I studied over here and I did this, these are my achievement. That's not a great impression. So you want to engage with the interviewer, look them in the eyes, come across as being confident but not overconfident, and come across as being engaged. And that's why it's important that you're not just reading from your CV or from a notepad. And of course, showing enthusiasm and interest in the role and the company is very, very important. So if you're monotone and boring, and if you seem like, oh, I've just come here because I just need a job and, my parents or my teacher have told me to be here, it doesn't reflect very well on you and it doesn't make the company overly excited about potentially hiring you. So show some enthusiasm in what the company do and what the job role is. Another thing to avoid is bad-mouthing any previous employers or openly swearing and cursing. That's a big no-no. It makes you come across as not being professional. Even if you've had a bad experience from another employer, or if you've done something that you haven't enjoyed, try to think about the positives. And finally, point number 10, you can't come across as only caring about the money and what's in it for you. So, avoid too many questions about salary benefits, whether you get a mobile phone, whether you get a laptop. Now, these are fine questions to ask, but there's a time and a place. Make sure that you ask additional questions and make sure that you come across as also being interested in the job role and the company. Okay, I hope you found all of these tips useful. And if you put these into practice, I'm sure you're going to land that dream job that you really want. Good luck.